Hi, everyone. I really am sorry I couldn't be with you this evening, but I look forward to seeing many of you on Sea Island later this year at the Cipher Brief Threat Conference. Thanks so much to Suzanne, to Brad, and to everyone at the Cipher Brief for this wonderful award. And thank you to my friends and colleagues, Jim, Leon, and George, for whom I have the deepest respect for your kind, if wildly exaggerated, words. As a recovering diplomat, many people might look at my background and think that I'd be well qualified to discuss the different nuances between intelligence and diplomacy. But I think it's more important to recognize, as this award does, that they're often two sides of the same coin. There's one particular shared interest that might surprise a lot of people, and that is transparency. Now, I know this is a word that's not often applied to intelligence services. We're supposed to collect secrets and keep them, not talk about them publicly. But in a democracy like ours, transparency applies in some degree to every organization in government, even to intelligence services like CIA. We have to be as open as possible while still doing all we must to protect our sources, our methods, and our people. So it's not a question of transparency or secrecy. It's a matter of striking the right balance between the two. After more than 3 years as CIA director, I can assure you that this is not an easy thing to do. But it's vitally important that we try, because when we get it right, it can be truly transformative for U.S. policy, our allies, and even our adversaries. For example, prior to Vladimir Putin's brutal invasion of Ukraine, Moscow's disinformation machine was running at full gear, and our European allies, even the Ukrainians themselves, very much wanted to believe the Russians were bluffing. Fighting against this strong current of disbelief required more than words or requests to simply trust us. We had to show our homework. We had to show proof. And through an unprecedented combination of declassification and intelligence sharing, we did just that. We safeguarded our sources and methods while also ensuring that the Ukrainians were ready for what was to come. And with the help of these continued efforts, along with the material assistance, which remains so crucial, the courage and valor of the Ukrainian people have held back the far bigger Russian army. With Ukraine and more recently in the Middle East, the concept and practice of intelligence diplomacy has never been more important. And to be clear, intel diplomacy complements, it does not replace, the extraordinary work of my former colleagues at the State Department. But it does play a vital role, especially with governments where domestic power tends to reside in the intelligence services more so than the ministries of foreign affairs. Intel diplomacy is a key aspect of my job, and it highlights the importance of getting out to the field. As director, I've taken nearly 70 trips outside of Washington to speak directly to our liaison partners, to foreign leaders, and to our brave CIA officers serving abroad. And no matter how far technology ends up taking us, nothing can replace the insights gained from these in-person meetings. That's why I find it so important to get out to the field, and why, on my way home, I always share what I've seen and learned with my two most important audiences, the President and the CIA workforce. My trips also serve as a good reminder of the extraordinary courage and the extraordinary sacrifice of those who serve on the front lines. From Beirut to Benghazi and from Moscow to Mazar-e-Sharif, CIA officers have endured hardship, made difficult choices, and risked their lives for our great nation. Their service, if not their specific work, deserves to be known. And that's why we tell their stories, often in surprising new ways. I cannot confirm or deny that anyone, even a few years ago, would have believed that CIA would be active on social media, much less produce a podcast that features real conversations with actual CIA officers and even our top spy. But in the United States, it's the people who are sovereign, and we have a duty to explain, to the extent we can, who we are and what we are doing in their name. Now, some might say that, unlike diplomats and journalists, the life of a spy is to know, not to be known, and I agree, but only to a point, because I think it's incredibly important that the American people know who we are as intelligence professionals. More importantly, they need to know how we act as intelligence professionals in a democracy. So while the public can't know exactly what we do, They do need to know that although we work in secret, we do not keep secrets from our elected leaders. They need to know that the intelligence community works hard to protect their families, while often at great sacrifice to our own families. And they need to know that we will continue to faithfully serve our country, regardless of the circumstances, even as the public inevitably hears more about our shortcomings than our successes. None of this, of course, is news to any journalist, and certainly not to the Cipher Brief. Indeed, you share much in common with those you cover, which is why receiving this award holds a special significance for me. Because you too take risks on dangerous beats all over the world. According to Reporters Without Borders, nearly 800 journalists were arbitrarily thrown in jail last year. This includes the Wall Street Journal's Evan Gershkovich, who recently marked a year of profoundly unjust imprisonment in Russia. And hundreds of reporters are killed annually when they dare to cover war, corruption, and terror. So thank you to the Cipher Brief and journalists everywhere for helping to educate the American people on critical security issues. But thank you for also giving them a glimpse into what most certainly should not be a secret, that the extraordinary people in the intelligence community are their fellow citizens, their loyal neighbors, and their country's dedicated patriots. I'll close by recalling the words of former CIA and FBI Director Judge Bill Webster, who we were honored to host at Langley recently on his 100th birthday. Bill said, "Together we will do the work the American people expect of us in the way the Constitution demands of us." This line is memorialized in bronze at FBI headquarters, but it can also serve as a promise from all of the intelligence officers who work so hard to safeguard the American people. I am intensely proud to serve as director of CIA and intensely proud of the work of our officers. They are the ones who deserve this award and deserve your respect and your admiration. So on behalf of the entire CIA, and in recognition of the great work of my former state colleagues, I proudly accept the Cipher Brief's Intelligence and Diplomacy Award. It's an honor and a privilege to be counted among such a distinguished group of honorees. Thank you so much.